Update. Am I the a-hole for leaving my best friend's wedding halfway through? Original post. I, 25 female, have been best friends with Kara, 26 female, since we were like 13. We've been through everything. High school drama, bad breakups, moving to different cities, all of it. When she got engaged last year, I was genuinely thrilled for her. She asked me to be maid of honor and I said yes without even thinking. Now here's where it gets messy. Kara met her now husband Evan about 3 years ago. I've never been his biggest fan, not because he's done anything terrible to me personally, but because he has this way of subtly belittling Kara in front of people. Like she'll tell a story, and he'll cut in with, "That's not how it happened," or "You're being dramatic." I've brought it up to her before, gently, and she just says, "That's how we joke." Fine, whatever. Leading up to the wedding, I was heavily involved, planning the bachelorette, running errands, making sure she ate on the day of because she was stressed as hell. The actual wedding day started fine, but little things piled up. First, Kara's mom pulled me aside in the morning and basically told me not to outshine the bride in any way. I was wearing the dress Kara picked, so that threw me off. Then at the reception, Evan gave his speech and thanked his brother, who he said was basically the best man and maid of honor combined. He didn't mention me at all. I laughed it off because maybe it was just nerves, but I saw a couple of people at my table give each other a look. Later, during the bouquet toss, Kara jokingly aimed it directly at her cousin instead of tossing it normally, then turned to me and said, loud enough for people to hear, "Well, you'll be single forever anyway." Everyone laughed. I laughed too, but it kinda hurt. The final straw was during the dancing. I was at the bar chatting with a mutual friend when Evan's brother came up and said, "Hey, Kara told me to tell you not to hog the attention on the dance floor. You're making her uncomfortable." I hadn't been dancing weird or anything, just normal wedding fun, but apparently me existing in her orbit was now a problem. I went to find Kara to ask what the deal was, but she brushed me off with, "Can we not do this right now? It's my day." At that point, I felt like I was just not wanted there. I'd spent months helping plan this wedding, paid for travel, address, gifts, and here I was being treated like I was crashing the party. So I told her I wasn't feeling well and left before dessert. When I got home, my phone blew up with texts from Kara. At first it was, "Where did you go?" Then, "I can't believe you ditched my wedding." And finally, "Everyone's asking where my maid of honor went. Do you know how bad this makes me look?" I explained I felt unwelcome, and she said I was being selfish and making it about me on her wedding day. I didn't respond after that. Now a couple of mutual friends are saying I overreacted and that weddings are stressful and people say things they don't mean. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. A common theme in these types of posts is failure to communicate. When Kara's mom told you not to outshine her in any way, your response needed to be, "What do you mean by that? Please be specific." When Kara made the comment about you never getting married, you should have responded, "Wow, that was really mean. Is everything okay? Are you having second thoughts about the marriage?" When Kara sent Evan to tell you not to hog attention on the dance floor, you should have immediately gone to her and asked what she meant by that. When she blew up your phone with, "Why did you leave texts?" you should have responded, "I kept being told I was outshining you, and since I wasn't doing anything to outshine you, the only solution to not outshining you was to leave." Is Kara that unattractive that she's so easily outshone? Lol, I don't think it's about attractiveness. It's about her insecurities and how she handles them. I tried asking for clarity multiple times, but she wouldn't actually answer. Leaving was just me stepping out of a situation where nothing I did would be seen as okay. Not the a-hole, but have we considered that the groom may not like you because of what she has said to him about you? Honestly, I hadn't thought of that. I mean, I've never had any big fights with him or anything, but I guess it's possible. Kara's never hinted at saying anything negative about me to him though, but then again, I wouldn't really know if she had. Now for the update. Hi everyone! I didn't expect my original post to get that much attention, but since so many of you asked for an update, here it is. After the wedding incident, I decided to take a step back from Kara completely. I didn't block her, but I stopped initiating any contact. She eventually called me a few hours after I made the post, clearly trying to play the victim. She said she couldn't believe I left her wedding over nothing and that she's never been so humiliated by a friend. I told her very calmly that I didn't appreciate being told multiple times throughout her wedding day that I was outshining her, when all I was doing was existing. I pointed out that I followed the dress code, danced like everyone else, and never once tried to make the event about me. She tried to say it was just banter when she made that comment about me never getting married, but I reminded her that it wasn't just that. It was her mom warning me before the wedding not to steal the spotlight, her sending her husband to tell me to stop dancing so much, and then blowing up my phone the moment I left. I told her if she really believed I was stealing the spotlight simply by being there, then she needs to look inward and figure out why she feels so insecure. The conversation didn't go well. She accused me of being jealous of her marriage, which is laughable because I would never want to marry someone like her husband, who didn't even have the decency to mention his wife's best friend in his speech after a decade of friendship. I told her I don't want to be in a friendship where I have to shrink myself to make her feel better. We haven't spoken since. From what I've heard through mutual friends, she's been telling people that I stormed out of her wedding to cause drama. Luckily, most people were there and saw how ridiculous that is. The comments on my original post really solidified that I wasn't crazy for feeling humiliated. I'm glad I walked away, because if someone's wedding is the peak of their self-esteem and they can't handle anyone else existing in the same room, that's their issue, not mine. Edit. A lot of people are asking me why the husband would have to mention me in his wedding speech. He doesn't. It makes a lot of sense why so many people are asking this. It was mentioned in the first post with the quote, "Evan gives his speech and thanks his brother, who he said was basically the best man and maid of honor combined." I hope this clears any doubts up. Another thing a lot of people were questioning was why her family was asking me not to dim her light. I have no idea. I'm an introvert and almost always hate it when the attention is on me. A lot of people assumed I was an attention hog or something. I could not imagine anything worse. Kara's honestly super insecure, and even though I think she's beautiful, during our friendship she always compared her looks to mine. God forbid she got one pimple. She would constantly talk about it and compare herself to me. The fact that the husband and his brother were involved in this makes me wonder if the husband is working to isolate your ex-friend from her social circle by poisoning her relationships with lies and subtle attacks the same way he does to her. Either way, she's an adult and has made her choice. Hopefully, when she ends up friendless with a man dedicated to destroying her self-esteem, she'll smarten up before it's too late. This is exactly my impression. In my teens and 20s, I dated a guy who systematically isolated me from my friends and my family so he could control me entirely. Then he started breaking me down mentally when I had no more lifelines, and then the physical abuse began. I was too scared to leave, until one day when, to make a very long story short, he injured my dog and almost killed her because he was mad at me for something I didn't do. He threw her over 6 feet into a shallow rocky bottom creek. Fortunately, she survived and lived 13 more years. I cut the apartment lease and moved in with the only friend I still had. I guess the only person he didn't feel threatened by, trained my dog in personal protection and bite work. She did amazing, and ended up dating a police officer for a couple of years while slowly rebuilding my other relationships. Luckily, I'm now married to a man who respects and supports me and loves me almost unconditionally. I still have a lot of trauma from the past, and he helps me through it when I get overwhelmed. The husband's behavior here reminds me of the transition from early to middle stages of what my ex did, and that makes me really uncomfortable for Kara. I am so sorry. I truly hope you're doing all right now. You didn't deserve any of that. I'm glad to hear you're doing better. She's obsessively jealous of you. I had this happen with a friend of mine who was getting married. She kept yelling that I dated hotter guys than her husband. I didn't want her husband. We have the exact opposite taste in guys. I have never once said anything mean about the guy she dated, but she decided to rip into me. Years later, it actually came out that she was just unhappy about getting married because she doesn't believe in monogamy and was mad that I was single and basically living her dream. so you have nothing to be apologetic about. Forget her. I hope she gets the therapy she needs, but you don't need that negativity in your life. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not talking to my sister since my wedding after her affair being exposed ruined the day? I, 26 male, married my wife Ella, 26 female, 4 months ago, and it's been 4 months since I spoke to my sister Valerie, 31 female, after her affair was exposed during our wedding reception. It led to a fight between her husband and the affair partner, who happens to be Ella's brother's best friend. The two were married, and they snuck off to continue their affair but were caught by Valerie's husband. There was yelling, punches thrown. My sister was hysterically trying to get her husband to calm down and take back what he said. I assume he said he was done with her, and they brought it back into the ballroom for everyone to witness. The cops had to be called, and Valerie's husband was insulting her and calling her every name a person might think of. The guy's wife got involved once she realized it was her husband. She jumped in, and Valerie ended up having her dress shredded and some hair pulled out. This became a huge distraction, and Ella and I decided to leave early because most of our guests ran off after that. Valerie's husband, the affair partner, and his wife were all arrested, and Valerie was taken to the hospital. My parents told me she was released 12 hours later, and I told them I didn't care and didn't want to talk about her or to her. Valerie did try reaching out, but I ignored her. She mostly cried about how her life was ruined and that she needed her brother. It was an afterthought, like several weeks of an afterthought, when she apologized for what happened, but she tried to say none of it was her fault. I refused to talk, and I still don't want to. My parents have passed along apologies for her, and I have told them to stop. They say I need to talk and Val needs me. They said she was the biggest victim, since she needed to be taken to the hospital, and surely Ella and I don't place any blame on her. But she knew her husband and the affair partner's wife were at the wedding. She chose to go off and screw around on her husband during my wedding reception. She made risky choices and didn't give a crap about my wedding. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I don't blame you for going no contact. Bad enough to be having an affair, but to do something while it's your wedding with both partners present just makes it sick. I know, she knew where she was and who was there. The fact she wanted to chase the thrill or whatever was going through her head doesn't excuse it for me. Your parents are delusional for thinking she's the victim. The husband and the affair partner's wife are the victims. She just got a little karma. Instead of celebrating with you, her brother, she was out chasing her own high. She didn't care about you, so why should you care about her now? I am sure your wife is shattered. I hope you were able to enjoy your honeymoon. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She actually snuck off during the reception with the affair partner? That's a bold move, Cotton. She actually did that, and so did he. And they actually thought no one would notice? How quick a quickie were they planning? It wasn't that quick, which is a big part of why they were found out. Not the a-hole. I'd never speak to her again. Choosing to sneak off with her own husband for a quickie would have been rude AF at her brother's wedding. Doing it with the affair partner? Yeah, you don't want trash like that in your life. Also, laughing my butt off at her being the biggest victim. She absolutely deserved to get the crap beat out of her, and it is all her fault. I wouldn't have cared if she went off for a quickie with her husband. It's the affair partner at my wedding while their spouses are present. That's what I find rude and just downright trashy to do because there was always a risk. Last story. Am I the a-hole for ending things with a guy after 1 week because he already had our wedding planned? I, 34 female, just started seeing this guy recently, and honestly, I was excited about it. For the past couple of years, my life has been all about school and work. Between classes, late-night assignments, and keeping up with my full-time job, I haven't had much energy to invest in dating. I'd been feeling like I was missing out, though. It seemed like everyone around me had someone, while I was stuck balancing textbooks and deadlines. So when I matched with this guy and we actually clicked right away, it felt like such a refreshing change. The conversation flowed naturally. I didn't feel like I had to explain myself or fill every silence. And for the first time in a long while, I let myself get a little excited about where things could go. Our first date went really well. We met up for coffee and ended up talking for hours. He seemed normal, funny, charming, attentive. There weren't any awkward pauses or red flags, just good back-and-forth conversation that made me feel comfortable and hopeful. I even left thinking to myself, okay, maybe this is promising. Maybe I've finally met someone I could actually see a future with. The second date, though, took me by surprise. We were barely halfway through dinner when he looked at me and said, "I could really see myself marrying you someday." I laughed because, who says that on the second date? We had only known each other for a few hours total, and marriage was already being brought up? It felt premature, but I brushed it off as excitement. Maybe he was just enthusiastic, or maybe he didn't mean it literally. I decided not to overthink it and kept giving him the benefit of the doubt. By the third date, things escalated further. Out of nowhere, he brought up baby names. Baby names. He started talking about what we could name our kids, as if we had already agreed we were going to have them. The problem is, I don't want children. That was one of the first things we discussed before even meeting in person, and I had been very clear about it. So when he brought it up, I was instantly uncomfortable. Still, I wanted to be fair and not just shut him down. I told him calmly, "Hey, this is moving really fast for me. I'd like to slow down and actually get to know each other before we start talking about marriage or kids." His response, "When you know, you know." Keep in mind, we had known each other for exactly 7 days at this point. 1 week. And instead of slowing down, he doubled down. By the end of that same week, he was texting me Zillow links for houses he thought we could buy together to raise our family in. Houses, kids, marriage. He had planned out our entire lives together before he even knew basic things about me, like my favorite color or how I take my coffee. That was my breaking point. I ended things right then. I told him I do want a serious relationship, but I refuse to be love-bombed or pressured into an entire future with someone I've just met. His reaction wasn't pretty. He got angry, told me I was throwing away a good thing, and accused me of wasting time on meaningless dating games. But to me, there's a difference between genuine interest and someone trying to lock you into a fantasy they've created after only a handful of dates. I want love, yes, but I want it with someone who actually takes the time to know me, not with someone who sees me as a role to fill in a life script they've already written. So, am I the a-hole for ending things after only a week because a guy had already mapped out our marriage, kids, and future house before even learning the smallest details about me? Not the a-hole. Wanting a serious relationship doesn't mean rushing into marriage and kids with someone you barely know. Ending it was smart. 1 week in and he's naming babies like it's The Sims. Nah, you made the right call. Not the a-hole at all. Forget that the whole thing is super weird, but you repeatedly told him this was too much for you and he didn't seem to care at all. Personally, I couldn't see myself with someone who disrespects my feelings and boundaries so overtly. Good on both of you, him for shooting at you right away, and you for dodging that massive bullet LOL.